Hey, my name is Jerry Swafford, and I have a PhD in mechanical engineering. I'm going to answer the question of what do you do when you finish your PhD? I want to start with answering the why this is the wrong question for you to be answering or asking. It's the wrong question because you're thinking about the wrong thing. If you're thinking right now and you're in the middle of your PhD, what am I going to do after this? In such a way that that's why you're clicking on a video like this, you're asking the wrong question. Probably right now you are thinking, I might be overqualified for a lot of positions when I get that PhD, and then what am I going to do? What kind of job am I going to get? That's the wrong question to be thinking about. Perhaps you're like me and you, in many ways, put your life on hold to focus on graduate school. I would not recommend this. We'll talk about this later in the video. Don't put your life on hold. Don't say, well, I'll do those things later after I finish. You should be making sure you're growing in all aspects of your life while you're in graduate school. Don't just put everything on hold to finish graduate school. Maybe you're uncertain that all of the effort and the time and the energy that you've put into this PhD will even be worth it. So that's why you're asking something about, well, what am I going to do after I graduate? This is the wrong question for you. The biggest one of all is that likely you've begun to doubt that you're even going to finish your PhD. Now, if you're in any of those categories, the wrong question to ask is, what am I going to do afterward? You need to be focusing on something else. But I'll answer your question anyway, since you ask. Here's what you're going to do when you finish your PhD. Whatever you want. You'll do whatever you want. With a PhD, it actually gives you a lot of opportunities that you would not have seen or would not have been able to access prior. So if you're worried about the job market and saying, I might be overqualified, understand this. You'll be able to do whatever you want when you finish the PhD. Now, I just want to repeat this. You heard me, whatever you want. This should be something that is exciting for you. Do not think about the PhD as something that now restricts what you're able to do. If anything, it raises the floor. I'm going to talk about some of Dr. Benjamin Hardy's work later in this video. But one of the things I just heard him speak in person at a conference last week, and he talked about how it's so important to raise our standards and raise our floor and to think about what we want to do in the future and have these huge 10x goals. And that if we will do that, it causes us to raise the standard of what we are allowed to be in our lives. And so you'll be able to do whatever you want. And why would you want to do something that you would be overqualified for? Do something bigger. So this should all come as a relief to you. If this has been something that's been bugging you, I'm doing all of this, and what if it just makes me overqualified for a bunch of positions? First of all, I would say raise your floor, raise your standard of what you're looking for. You're going to find that there are going to be things that come open for you that you didn't have access to before. It's going to unlock things for you rather than make things worse. Your PhD, like I just said, is going to qualify you for a lot of positions. Another thing that's going to happen is you're going to feel like, okay, now I'm free to do other things. What I would counsel you on is to not put your life on hold in graduate school. So if you're like me, I'm single right now, starting to look around and look to perhaps marry in the next year or two. And I should have been working on that more while I was in graduate school rather than saying, well, that'll be something I'll do later. So I would say don't put your life on hold in graduate school. I found that towards the end, the more I got holistic in the way I looked at my life and worked on my faith and worked on being a family man and worked on the things that I was thinking about and fighting for and finances and fitness, when I thought about all of them, that was something that made it easier for me to fight to get finished with graduate school instead of just trying to essentially say, well, two or three of those areas I'm just going to not think about while I'm in graduate school. So, for example, with finances, for a long time I thought, well, I've got to do, I can't really do anything because I've got to spend so much work on my research and on finishing my PhD. But in the last year of my PhD, I started an Amazon bookstore and built it to where it brought in tens of thousands of dollars in revenue within the next year. And so that is something I was able to do while I was in graduate school. You don't have to put your life completely on hold. Just want to say that. All of the effort, energy, time, all of that will be worth it. You're going to find that there are so many perks and benefits that you're not considering right now because you just don't see them yet. They're coming. Here's something I would counsel you on. And this is kind of related to the not putting your life on hold, but you need to become the person who has the PhD now. And you might be thinking, well, what does that mean? Become that person now. I don't have it yet. Well, that's just it. You have to become that person before you do the things that will allow you to have the PhD. Myron Golden says, you be, and then you do, and then you have. And that's really how it works. And so much of what I try to focus on when I'm trying to counsel people on this now is helping them to see that you have to become the type of person that does the kinds of things that gets a PhD. You have to become that person first. Dr. Benjamin Hardy has this book called Be Your Future Self Now. And he talks about this idea of how you need to become the person that you want to become well before you get to that place. So if I want to be something 2 years from now, I need to start thinking about who that person is. Who is he? And I need to start acting like him now. And before I know it, maybe not even in 2 years, I'll be him. And then you can move on to something else. If you're a PhD student or a PhD candidate right now, you need to be focusing on becoming you, fill in your name, PhD right now. So start thinking about it. Maybe you want to journal about it. That might be helpful for you. I know I did a lot of thinking about what kind of food does that guy eat? How does he dress? So for example, for me, I liked dressing in a t-shirt and shorts. It was really comfortable. I did that a lot of times in graduate school. Go out somewhere and be in t-shirt and shorts all the time. And I began to say to myself, but Jerry, PhD, he doesn't dress like that. He wears a polo and slacks. He doesn't wear shorts. That might not be you. That's just me. And so I began to not dress like that. I became a carnivore during the last semester of graduate school. So just ate meat. I figured out what is it that guy is going to do, and I started doing it. What kinds of things does that person say? I had to speak differently. I stopped saying things like, I'm trying to do this, or I want to, and just started saying and speaking with intention. This guy, Jerry Swafford, PhD, this is how he talks. This is how he dresses. This is how he eats. As many things as I could think of as how I envisioned him being, that's what I started doing. And once I became him and acted like him, I began to work like him. And I began to do the kinds of things he would do. And eventually, I got the PhD. And I am him now. That's a really interesting thing to think about, how a year ago I was thinking about becoming him. And I started doing those things now. And then I became him. So what you need to focus on is not on what you're dreading, like, oh, well, what am I going to do after I graduate? What you should focus on instead is what you want to happen. So stop worrying about the job market. It's different for us as PhDs, yes. But why would you want the work that everybody else can do who doesn't have a PhD? Raise your standard. Want something more. Start becoming the person that will have the PhD. So when you think about okay, I want the PhD. There are certain things I need to do to get the PhD, but who do I need to become to do the things to get the PhD? That's the part you focus on. Don't focus on the actions and don't focus on the PhD. Go reverse engineer this. Figure out okay, this is what the PhD is. These are the things I need to do. This is who I need to become to be able to do the things to get the PhD. Focus on the becoming part. If you start becoming that person now, don't put it off till, well, I'll become him next month or I'll become her next month. No, become that person now. And as you become that person, you'll start doing the things that person does. And then you'll look around like me and you have the PhD and you don't obsess about that anymore because you have it now. You don't think about it anymore. Now I'm thinking about who's the next guy, right? I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm thinking about, okay, this guy that makes tens of thousands of dollars a month, who do I need to become now to be him? And then I will be him. You need to realize that all of your effort will be worth it. It will be. I can't really stress this enough. There are just so many things that you can't see right now. So go ahead and get finished, and then you'll see all of those things, and you'll just be so pleased with yourself that you powered through it and got it done. You got to believe you'll finish this and graduate. I'm talking a lot about belief here, and that might seem like that's not the thing to talk about. You need to be talking about tactics. No, mindset is really much more important than skill set and what you learned and tactics. It's really more important to believe, because when you do, the tactics and the skills and the work, it'll just come naturally because you are that person. Okay, so what are you going to do when you finish? Whatever you want. So what are you waiting for? Finish your research, write your thesis, defend it, graduate. Then after that, you can start the next chapter, get on with your life, and do the things you want to do. And then that'll be a good time to think about what happens next. But right now, get your PhD done. And there are all kinds of things for you to anticipate and all kinds of things that will be great for you coming next. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.